Malachi chapter 1 verses 1 and 2. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. Verse 2. I have loved you, saith the Lord, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord, yet I loved Jacob. Verse 1. The burden, Strong's H4853. The Hebrew word masah means load, bearing, tribute, burden, lifting. Can also refer to utterance, oracle, etc. ESV, NASB, Holman Christian Standard Bible have oracle, NIV has prophecy. Massa is translated prophecy twice in the Authorized Version, King James. Proverbs 30 and verse 1 and Proverbs 31 verse 1. Let's go there. Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 1. The words of Agur, the son of Jacob, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Ithiel, even unto Ithiel and Ukal. And then we got Proverbs 31 verse 1. The words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. When the English word burden is used, it generally was referring to a load someone or something must bear, i.e. carry, such as carrying the load of a burden, etc. For example, the prophet Moses told Israel that if you see a donkey of a person who hates you lying under its burden, then you must help the donkey. Exodus 23 and verse 5. Exodus chapter 23 and verse 5. If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden, and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him. In other words, if the donkey has fallen because of a heavy load it was bearing on its back, then it is your duty to help the poor animal, even if the animal belongs to someone who considers you their enemy. Thus, burden here is referring to the load of carrying that which is a burden to the animal, i.e. a heavy load. Now, burden is mentioned again in Numbers chapter 11, but let's get the context first. The people murmur and complain, as was common with the children of Israel. God sends fire down, consumes many of them, kills them. The people ask Moses to help stop the judgment. Moses prays, and the fire from YHWH is stopped. Let's go to Numbers chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. Numbers chapter 11. Verses 1 through 3. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. Verse 2. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. Then we come to verse number 3. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. Then we have more murmuring taking place, this time from the mixed multitude, i.e. the group of Egyptians which traveled with the children of Israel when they left Egypt. In other words, the Exodus, they started craving the food they once ate in Egypt, which led the children of Israel to also complain, saying, we don't need manna, we need good meat. Then they reminisce of the past meals they ate in captivity, saying we remember the good food of Egypt, the fish, the cucumbers, the melons, etc. In Numbers chapter 11, verses 4 through 5. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting, And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? Verse 5, we remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. Israel then says, But now our appetite is gone, because all we see is manna. It's always manna we eat. Numbers chapter 11, verses 6 through 7. And now our soul is dried away. There's nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. And the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. Now Israel describes manna's appearance as that of bdellium. Bdellium is Strong's H916, the Hebrew word bedolak, means gum resin. To Israel, it's the same old boring food, which looks like gum resin. So even their description of the food is a put down, because not only are they tired of eating it, but they're tired of looking at it. It looks like old boring gum resin. In contrast, there would have been a better way to put this across without angering God YHWH by simply in a polite manner asking if they could have something different to eat. Instead, they don't ask politely but launch into a tirade. If we skip down to Numbers 11, verses 9 through 10, the manna falls on the ground from heaven. The people stand with their tents open, watching and complaining as more manna was sent. The complaining displeased Moses and angered YHWH, the God of Israel. We're going to look at that now. Numbers chapter 11, verses 9 and 10. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent. And the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. The manna, okay. In Numbers chapter 11, in verse 11, Moses says to God, Why do you lay the burden of this people on me? So we can see here, burden is referring to the heavy load of the people. Why is their burden of complaints laid on me? We'll look at it in the King James, Numbers 11:11. And Moses said unto the Lord, Wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? If we look at Numbers 11:7 in the NASB, it says, Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its appearance like that of bdellium. ESV, now the manna was like coriander seed, and its appearance like that of bdellium. NIV, the manna was like coriander seed and looked like resin. Now, coriander seed, and you got bdellium. Manna could possibly be a food which grows on the earth today. There is a food named manna which is found in western Greece and Central Asia. Now, the color is similar to coriander seed, and the shape of it does look like bdellium. If this is indeed manna, then that would mean God allowed it to grow on the earth for some reason, but perhaps it was erroneously mistaken and named after manna because it looked like the biblical description of it and tasted similar, i.e. sweet. So we cannot say for 100% certain that this is what the children of Israel ate in the wilderness, though it does seem to resemble very much its description. Now, where did manna actually come from? What is its origins? According to the psalmist, it's a food that came from the third heaven and was eaten by angels. We're going to go there now. Psalm 78. Psalm chapter 78, verses 23 through 25. Though he had commanded the clouds, whoops, wrong one. Or no, hold on. Psalm 78, yeah, okay, 23. Though he had commanded the clouds from above, though he had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven, and had rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. Verse 25, man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Now, the Brenton Septuagint says in 23 through 25, we're going to read in that version, says, yet he commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven and rained upon them manna to eat and gave them the bread of heaven. Verse 25, man ate angels' bread. He sent them provision to the full. NIV, yet he gave a command to the skies above and opened the doors of the heavens. 24, he rained down manna for the people to eat. He gave them the grain of heaven. 25, human beings ate the bread of angels. He sent them all the food they could eat. Now, we must be careful not to confuse the third heaven where God dwells for the first heaven, which is the sky and atmosphere of the earth, because the meat quail rained down from the sky by a wind. Thus, when the quails are spoken of coming down from heaven, it means the sky and not the third heaven, as was meant for the manna in Psalms 78, verses 26 through 27. Let's look at that. Psalms chapter 78, verses 26 and 27. He caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and by his power he brought in the south wind. He rained flesh also upon them as dust, and feathered fowls like as the sand of the sea. All right. Of the word, H1697, Duvar, speech, word, speaking, utterance, translated, word, Genesis 15, verse 4. Let's go there. Genesis chapter 15 and verse 4. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. Translated, word in Genesis 15:4, where Abram believed that Eliezer of Damascus would be his heir, but God told him it was not so, for a child would come from the bowels of Abram. Abram later had his name changed to Abraham. The Hebrew word devar, translated word, is identical to its Greek counterpart, G3056, logos, which means the same speech, word, speaking, utterance. Christ, for example, was the logos, the word that was with God and was God. Let's go there, John chapter 1. John chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. And this is the one who spoke things into existence, in utterance. In Genesis 1, let's go there. Genesis 1 and verse 3. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. Genesis 1:6. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Genesis 1:9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. Genesis 1:11. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. Of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. God's prophet is Malachi. Malachi chapter 1 verse 2. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet you say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Lord, yet I loved Jacob. God's prophet is Malachi. Verse 2, God loved the nation of Israel, but the children of Israel ask, how exactly have you loved us? God responds, was not Esau the brother of Jacob? But I love Jacob, says God. YHWH favored Jacob and the children of Israel over Esau and the Edomites. However, as far as the children of Israel are concerned here in the book of Malachi, it doesn't seem to them that God really loves them at all. In fact, at this point, they don't even seem to really want to serve God because the children of Israel are seeing no benefit to it. The children of Israel believe they're serving God and getting no blessing. Instead, they're being cursed for serving Him. This goes back to the promises of God between Moses and the Israelite forefathers, where if Israel does what God says to do and keeps His commandments, they get blessings. If they fail to do so, curses come upon them. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. Deuteronomy chapter 28. We got Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all His commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. So Deuteronomy 28 verse 1 states, as Israel keeps Yah's commandments, they will be the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And we got Deuteronomy 28 verse 2, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Verse 2, all these various blessings will come upon the children of Israel if they listen to the voice of Yah, YHWH. Then we got verse 3, Deuteronomy 28:3, blessed shalt thou be in the city, blessed shalt thou be in the field. They will be blessed in their cities, blessed in their field. 28 verse 3. Basically, God will cause things to happen to Israel, a reward for obeying Him and following His commandments. Deuteronomy 28 verse 4, blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy ground, the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. In Deuteronomy 28 verse 4, the fruit of their womb, their land, and their animals will be blessed. Fruit of the womb means the nation of Israel's wives' wombs will be blessed, i.e., they will bear you many healthy children. Fruit of the ground refers to Israel's crops being blessed. Thus, God will guard their crops from the locust and the worm, and He will open the windows of heaven, which means cause rain to fall on their crops, and they will have a large increase in crops to eat. The blessing of rain spoken of in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 12, the Bible reads, the Lord shall open unto thee His good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto thy land in its season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. And the fruit of their cattle and flocks will be blessed. They will have many animals to eat. Thus will God will multiply their cattle, versus allowing plagues to destroy them or invading nations to take them. Israel's baskets and kneading trough will be blessed. That is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 5. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. God will cause Israel's enemies, which attack one way, to retreat 7 different ways, thus scatter from the losing battle. It's another blessing they get to defeat their enemies. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 7, the Bible says, the Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. Israel's storehouses will be blessed. field full of food to eat. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 8. The barns are going to be full of food. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 8. The Bible says, the Lord shall command the blessings upon thee in thy storehouses, and all that thou settest thine hand unto, and he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Yet the opposite is true if they do not obey the commandments of the Lord their God. Deuteronomy 28, and we're going to look at verses 15 through 21. Deuteronomy 28, verses 15 through 21. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city. Cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Verse 19. Cursed thou shalt be when thou comest in, cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Verse 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Verse 21, the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he hath consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. So God will also send disease, plagues on the children of Israel, cursing them with sickness. Deuteronomy 28, verse 22. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, with an extreme burning, and with sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and thou shalt pursue thee until thou perish. God will make the temperature rise also, making it very hot, and he'll send no rain for their crops, but instead he will send dust, and their crops will be covered by sandstorms. We find this in Deuteronomy 28, verses 23 through 24. And the heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, the earth that is under thee shall be iron. Verse 24. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. And when Israel fights another nation in war, Israel will come in one way and flee several different ways, trying to get away from their enemies. Deuteronomy 28:25. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. You shall be scattered. You see. So yeah, I mean, that's these things, you get these certain things happen, you get blessings. If you don't, you get the cursings, which is pretty much the opposite of the blessings in the same configurations. During the time of Malachi, the children of Israel feel they're being cursed for no reason. Why is God not blessing us? They feel, what is the point of following this God who said he's going to bless us if we obey him, yet he never does bless us? That's their argument. They believe that they are following the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob just as he commanded them to, yet he did not live up to his word. He lied to them when he promised blessings, like he swore in Deuteronomy 28 that he would. He lied to us. That's what they believe. Yet the children of Israel were not actually following what God said to do. They were doing it half-heartedly. God said, bring me animal sacrifices. And they did just that. Yet they brought sick animals, animals which had things wrong with them. They kept the good animals to themselves. And the text says in Malachi chapter 1 and verse 8, they offer the blind, the lame, and the sick animals to God as sacrifice. So we're going to look at that. Malachi chapter 1 and verse 8. And if ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if you offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person, saith the Lord of hosts? Lame means animals unable to walk normally because of an injury or illness affecting the leg or foot. The command on proper sacrifices and what is forbidden concerning animal sacrifice is found in Deuteronomy 15 and 21. We'll look at that verse. Deuteronomy chapter 15 and 21. The Bible says, Deuteronomy 15:21, and if there be any blemish therein, as if it be lame or blind or have any ill blemish, thou shalt not sacrifice it unto the Lord thy God. Deuteronomy 15 and verse 21. Now, the Bible also records that Israel was robbing God in tithes and offerings. It's in Malachi chapter 3. Let's go there. In verse 8, well, a man robbed God, yet you've robbed me, but ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. So that's Malachi chapter 3 and verse 8. But the people say, how have we robbed you in tithes and offerings? They are oblivious, either not aware of or not concerned with the way they do things, because that is their response, as though they're oblivious to their own wrongdoings. God said, your priests have despised my name. They say, how have our priests despised your name? That's Malachi chapter 1 and verse 6. It says, God says, your priests have despised my name. They say, how have our priests despised your name? A son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, where is mine honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear, saith the Lord of hosts unto you, O priests that despise my name? And you say, wherein have we despised thy name? God says, you offer polluted bread on my altar. They say, how have we polluted you? 1:7, Malachi chapter 1 verse 7, ye offer polluted bread upon my altar, and you say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that you say, the table of the Lord is contemptible. The deceiver is noted as cursed in Malachi chapter 1 and verse 14. But cursed be the deceiver which hath in his flock a male, and voweth and sacrificeth unto the Lord a corrupt thing. For I am a great king, saith the Lord of hosts, and my name is dreadful among the heathen. The one who makes a vow to the Most High and then sacrifices a corrupt animal. Since we're now talking about vows, now is the perfect time to debunk the error of the denominations which teach that taking the name of the Lord in vain means to stump your toe and yell, Jesus Christ, or get angry and say the word God and then attach a damn it or dang it after it. And secondly, what God are you damning? Are you damning a false god such as Astaroth or Dagon or Remphan? Or are you damning the true God, which is the Creator? So we're going to go to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. So that's Exodus 20 and verse 7. Now, vain is H7723. The Hebrew word shav, defined as emptiness, vanity, falsehood, lying, worthlessness. Shav is translated false or falsehood 8 times in the King James Version. Shav is translated 22 times as the word vanity. So to take the name of the Lord in vain would be to take his name in a way of vanity, a false way, a way of falsehood, a lying way, a worthless way. In Leviticus 19:12, we read, one is not to swear by the name of the Lord falsely. We're going to go there, Leviticus 19, verse 12. Leviticus 19 and verse 12, and ye shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. We're going to compare it with Deuteronomy 5:11. Deuteronomy chapter 5. Deuteronomy 5 verse 11. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. We're going to Proverbs 30. Proverbs 30, verses 8 and 9. The Bible says, Proverbs 30, verse 8 and 9, remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. In the New Testament, vain is G2756, kenos, the Greek word kenos, which means empty, vain, devoid of truth. This could be connecting with swearing an oath falsely before God, i.e. swearing something you don't intend to keep, which would be a false oath, as in Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, verses 33 through 34. Matthew chapter 5, 33 and 34. Again, you've heard that it hath been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne. And when Jesus says, you've heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made. But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne.